For all you naysayers that said Jed Hoyer wouldn't go to the deep end of the pool and make a splash move, he's got some news for you.
Cannonball!
The Cubs make a move, finally getting starting pitcher Edward Cabrera. We're going to get into that, the good and the bad of this trade, and a lot more coming up on the Set of Man right now. Welcome into a quote-unquote emergency episode of the Set Up Man podcast. I am Alex, along with Kyle and Ty. We got a full bullpen tonight for the biggest trade the Cubs have made since the Kyle Tucker move last offseason. But before we get into all of that, do us a favor, like, subscribe, comment below. I have to go through my new routine because we're doing this live. It's been a minute. But comment below. Let us know your thoughts and feelings on the move. If you have anything else, we're going to get into some, like, what's going to happen later down, maybe, since Cabrera doesn't make any money. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm so excited. But audio-only listeners, this will be available on podcast. So if you're doing that, make sure to leave us a follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. Okay, we can finally – I haven't played this since July 31st. Trade alert, the Chicago Cubs have got their starting pitcher. They have acquired starting pitcher Edward Cabrera from the Miami Marlins. And what did they give up, you ask? Well, they gave up top prospect number 45, according to MLB Pipeline, Owen Casey, outfielder. They gave up the Cubs' number 11 prospect, Christian Hernandez. And they gave up infield prospect Eduardo De Leon in exchange for Edward Cabrera. Before we get into all the numbers, before we get into all the stats, the injury stuff, Kyle, let's start with you. Just instant reaction to when this trade went down.
My very first reaction is actually, thank you, good friend of the show, Lance Brzezowski, is listening in live right now. 3 good-looking dudes who look happy, says Lance. First time we did something in 5 months. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for commenting, Lance. Initial reactions is that we had to do something. Right? So the fact that it wasn't Imai, it wasn't we still, I still don't think it's going to be a Suarez or a Valdez. Maybe there's still hope for a Gallen. That would be really sweet if now you add Gallen to this mix. But you had to do something. I just want to temper some expectations, though. This guy's not a savior. Like, he's not going to go to the top of the rotation. He's got that potential, though, and that's what you're really trading for here. Is you're already legit. You got a legitimate number 3/2 consistently, and he's at his best going to carry this staff when he's got his really good streak going. And that's kind of what you see a lot of this staff being made up of, right? There's not one guy that's just going to carry them throughout the entire 32 starts through the year. Every guy is going to have some streaks where you feel like they're the ace, and Edward Cabrera is going to be part of that mix. So that was my initial reaction. And then, of course, with Casey leaving, you knew the Marlins were eventually going to get Casey if we were doing a deal with them. They just wanted him. It's sad. It's sad, though.
Yeah, Ty, I'm curious your thoughts here, too. You and I literally, It felt like yesterday, the last 20 minutes of the episode we posted yesterday, we just complained like, there's no plan here. What are they doing? They're sitting on their hands. Little did we know that this was coming today. But what were your initial reactions to this move? And what kind of impact do you think Cabrera can have on the 2026 Chicago Cubs?
It's you're talking about a sports car that you can do a whole lot to. I mean, this dude has potentially elite stuff, and you see it and you see clips. I mean, you're talking a 96 mile per hour changeup, guys. Like, what in the world are we talking about here? Um, I think the hardest part, because I think all of us were just starving for a move. We could all agree. We would have taken anything at this point, right? And so when we saw that it was the Edward Cabrera side, we said, okay, it's probably Casey, because Casey has been tied to the Marlins for a couple of years now. Mainly, it was a big thing last deadline, was that the Marlins really, really, really wanted Casey if they were going to trade probably both Alcantara and Edward Cabrera. Look, I'm excited to have something that is controllable, it's cheap, and it's something where it's an arm that you're talking, like I just said, you're talking a fairly high ceiling here. Now, Kyle made a great point, and this has to be very, very clear. This is not coming in number one ace. Like, that's just not, you can't have that expectation right away. You're talking a lot of tinkering and other things that Hadavi, Zombro, and those other guys are probably looking to do. And the other thing too here is that trading away Casey beyond 2026, you don't have really a right fielder unless you're looking at Alcantara. So this was a pretty critical move, and a very highly discussed move by the Cubs. So overall, there was a lot of thinking that went into this, and Jed is conservative, as we all know. So for him to move Casey says a whole lot. So overall, I'm excited to see what this does. I think this kind of cements, unless they make another trade, say, over in right field, which he did a fine job in right field last year. It's not a Tucker, it's maybe not a Casey, but it's going to do a fine job. And then Ballesteros now gets his opportunity at DH unless they make some moves there. So there's a lot of things that unfold from this particular move, and that's what's so exciting about it to talk about here on today's show.
And we'll get to the what's next in just a little bit, because I do have some stuff. Jesse Rogers was on MLB Network as I was outlining the show. I threw that on the side screen, and just interesting stuff. Let's go over some of Cabrera's stuff here. So in 2025, went 8-7, 137 and 2/3 inning, a career best, 3.53 ERA, 26 games started. This was also intriguing for me. His ground ball percentage, 46.6. So he gets a lot of ground balls, which obviously we know plays well for this Cubs defense. And he didn't give up a ton of fly balls, only 33% fly ball percentage. Now, here's the issue, though, and is great. I mean, the stuff is great. He throws a changeup, cutter, slider, sinker, fastball, all of which, except for, even his slider touches 90 occasionally. But on average, there you see the changeup at 94.2 miles an hour on average. It's just insane. Curveball, so you got curveball? Okay. So I looked at Fangraphs, so I believe I misread it. So it's a cutter. So it's actually a curveball at 84. Sinker touches high 90s. Slider touches 90. Four-seamer, which actually is not his preferred pitch. He only uses his fastball 13% of the time. But when he pulls back, 97 miles an hour. But, and as exciting as this is, and it's a great swing, and the Cubs needed to do it, I do think it's important to look at both sides of the story here. So Kyle, I just shared this with you. Ty, I haven't talked to you yet. But so if you've watched the show, you know I'm a Miami Heat fan for whatever stupid reason, but that's the case. So I follow a lot of the Miami beat writers. Per Barry Jackson, who is a legend in South Florida covering all their sports, he said, per sources, the risks of continuing on with Cabrera after 11 trips to the IL and elbow issues last September were too much for the Marlins to stomach, knowing that they could get two of the Cubs' top 10 prospects and knowing they have Thomas White and Snelling, who are their top pitching prospects in the system, they're close to big league ready. So it is a little telling for me that the Marlins, per sources, allegedly, they just wanted off the Cabrera ride, which is interesting to me. This is a guy who's 27 years old. He'll be 28 in, I believe, May. And he's got all the talent in the world. And they were just kind of like, no, we're good. Now they can afford it. They have pitching up the wazoo. But Kyle, I am kind of interested. What is your level of fear with his injury history? Because that is a part of the story.
At this point, I think any starting pitcher in the game of baseball, you just have to assume, like, he had 137 innings last year.
Yep.
And that was the first time that he had exceeded 100 innings. First time in his career outside of that 2022 season that he had an ERA that was under 4.24. And in that 2022 season, he only threw 71 innings. You and I were kind of talking about it. I just think of like Glasnow. The sky is the limit. Glasnow had more success than Cabrera when he was traded to the Dodgers. But you look at what the Dodgers did, and they're like, "Hey, we only need you for 100 innings, and 30 of those are going to be in the playoffs. So just do your thing in the playoffs." And that's, I hope, what the Cubs are learning from the Dodgers as well. It's just like a guy like this with stuff like this. Don't rush him back from IL injuries, and make sure now. I mean, I like the fact that now, instead of Colin Ray and Javier Assad and that Jordan Wicks / Ben Brown mix, instead of them being number 6, 7, 8, they back up to now 7, 8, 9. Like you're not seeing Colin Ray starting a game. You're not seeing one of those guys starting a game unless like we're really hurting. And that's after Steele comes back, of course, in mid-May to June. But yeah, I just think that this team, with especially the pitching development that you've seen, is going to do things with Cabrera that the Marlins probably won't be able to. And some other great things that were being said online. We have a better defense. That 3.53 ERA with the Cubs might have been closer to like 3.10 this last year had he been wearing the Cubs pinstripes.
So what's interesting about that, and I don't know why this popped into my head, but Ty, I want to get your opinion on this. I wonder if they put Cabrera on like a Cade Horton pitch count type of plan. They were very, very careful with Horton. He only went over 90 pitches, it felt like, a handful of times. And knowing this guy's ceiling and what they gave up to get him, he's young, he's uber talented. But Ty, I wonder, do you think they're going to just kind of baby him then to kind of work him out? With the reported elbow injuries, that's not nothing. That's not nothing. I was just saying not nothing to mess with, but that's not a real sentence. And we're live, so this is what it is. But no, Ty, I am curious if you think there'll be a Cade Horton sort of plan with Cabrera going forward.
Well, and this is why it's so important that you get another starting pitcher that has shown to have great health, right? You're talking about a Zach Gallen or some of these other guys that can withstand sort of the blow in case there is time off needed for Cabrera or Horton. Like if you look at the innings last year, Cabrera obviously had 137, Horton was at 118, so both of those numbers will probably go up. Cabrera's numbers have gone up each of the years. Yes, it's not what you would want out of like we don't see 200 inning pitchers anymore, but you're at least seeing a little bit of growth. Yes, there's just so many issues now. Guys are throwing harder than they ever have. They're throwing pitches that they've never thrown before. It's just going to happen. The thing is though, guys, is that you got to have depth, especially if you want to go into the playoffs and do anything. We talked about it the other day. I think Kyle, you talked about it with Jacob, right? Game 5, we're throwing Drew Pomeranz. No disrespect to Drew Pomeranz, but these are the types of situations that real contenders want to have. Now, the thing is that this team still has a lot to do to be considered a World Series contender. Let's be completely honest here and transparent. But you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. You find yourself in a better scenario now with a guy that can go out there and possibly give you that 5 to 6 innings that you wouldn't have gotten last year. And you're talking elite stuff. And again, he's down in Miami. You're not winning a whole lot down in Miami. Like, he's just not. Like, if you look at his numbers going into August after the trade deadline, they were the worst of the season. Like, this stuff matters when guys go to teams and go compete and go and be a part of a team that has a chance. Miami never had a chance. So there's a lot of other factors that go into this besides just the player. And what his numbers show is that he's actually going to like a sick ball club. He's going to obviously play in front of an amazing crowd every single time he goes out there at home. And yes, maybe there's a few things that need to change. So look, I understand there's just concerns across the board. We have concerns across all of them, guys. I mean, Horton, Tyone, Imanaga, Boyd, and Cabrera haven't all shown to be healthy. So, like, that's why we still need a little bit more beyond this. We still need a little bit more of a safety net.
So you both have mentioned the Cubs going out and getting another starter. And I don't disagree. I just want to ask the question, so don't yell at me in the comments. Are we sure about that? Are you really sure they need to go out and sign somebody? Because if you look down the list, it's Horton, Cabrera, Tyone, Imanaga, Ray. I don't remember if I said Boyd, but they have realistically like 8 to 9 options they can throw.
And Jackson Wiggins is going to come up at some
point.
point.
Wasn't even counting him. I was just counting the guys that are quote unquote big league-ish. Of course,
Ben Brown,
Jordan Wicks.
Ben Brown.
They have options. So
Javier Assad.
Yeah,
we can keep going.
That's my point, though. The fact that they already go 8-9 deep if they want with swing guys and starters. Chris Bassett, there was a name that just kind of popped in my head as I was yammering. But do you guys really think they need to go out and sign one, or are you relatively comfortable with what they have in the stable currently? But I think I know both your answers because you kind of already said it. You both think they need to sign somebody?
I'll answer that with an asterisk next to it. The answer is yes, but if it holds, if the reports are really true about this Bichette stuff, if it holds him back from getting Bichette, then the answer is I'm ready to roll the dice. But my stronger answer is yes, because of the fact that you saw what happened with the Dodgers last year. I mean, how many starters did they sign over the offseason? And you're like, gosh, like their number 10 starter is like a number 3 on anyone else's. And it won them a World Series. And it wasn't just that, but I just think you can't have enough starting pitching.
Ty, your thoughts?
That's it. I'm sorry. I can't emphasize this enough. Like, this team is we need, like, obviously that one other bat in that lineup to really be of competition towards the Brewers or the Reds or any of these other teams in the NL Central, in my opinion, right? You can bypass a lot of those issues if you have enough pitching to withstand that for the time being. Now, that they still have enough space to go get a starting pitcher plus another guy, in my opinion. I think, but it's going to have, unfortunately, it's going to have to be a very low cost guy. That's why I see names like Chris Bassett and some of these other names. So maybe Zach Gallen is probably unrealistic at this point, especially if you go after a Bichette or Bregman.
Yeah, I'm curious how the market is shaking out for those guys a little bit too. Like Bassett, maybe you get on a 1-year deal, maybe. But again, I'm with Kyle. Like, I think Bichette, at first, when it was first reported over the weekend, I'm like, yeah, okay. And Ty, you and I talked about it yesterday. Like, all right. They checked in because they were talking to an agent about another guy, and it was like, oh, what's Bichette look like? They weren't really serious. Well, this morning, Ken Rosenthal and Will Salmon of The Athletic put out an article that said they're in on Bregman and Bichette. And that's coming from Ken Rosenthal, who really does not like the Ricketts all that much, specifically Tom, and thinks they need to spend more money. So if he's putting out the Bichette stuff, I'm taking that a little more serious than I would have, say, 24 hours ago. And you know what? We've danced around it enough. So let's talk about what's next right after this quick word from our new sponsor.
Hey, let's take a quick break to let you know that one way you can support our show is by taking control of your health. Guys, I used to drink 1 to 2 energy drinks per day. That was in my mid-20s. No one in their mid-20s should be going through any energy issues. But after trying out Avocare products, not only did I kick my energy drink habit and save hundreds of dollars per month, I also lost 3% body fat and 8 pounds in the first 3 weeks. That started in 2012. I've obviously fallen in love with them. I've used them every day since then, and I will never stop using them. And guess what? I'm going to give you a 15% off link to my favorite product, Spark. You just mix it with water, it tastes great, and it'll give you 5 hours of clean energy with no crash. The link is down in the description, and again, this helps support our show, and I think you're going to love it just as much as I do.
Wow.
I think Ty had plenty of Spark today, is what I think.
Couple two tree. Hey, I tell you what, Jet had a couple of them after maybe some other things after this trade went down, because you know this guy wanted them. So Well, what's next, boys? What is next?
Your face is as red as our little tabs on the bottom of the screen. Are you okay? Is my next question.
This Fresca is incredible. Back to you, John.
Okay. For what it's worth, thank you. Jesse Rogers just tweeted that the trade is now official. So
Hey,
there it is. So he's officially a Cub. There's no backing out. The doctors passed him, which actually we forgot to mention, or I forgot to mention. I think that isn't telling, though, that the Marlins were like, he's got injury issues. We're just kind of over it. We got other guys coming. But the Luzardo deal fell through last winter. And the fact that this one didn't, and the doctors were like, yep, good to go. I think that is telling. And I don't think we should just,
maybe it's new doctors.
well, I mean, no one should get fired from their job, but the Cubs athletic staff has been poop, to say the least. We're live, so I didn't want to swear. But, the fact that they signed off, though, I do think is significant. Speaking of significant, what's coming next? So the fun thing about this trade is that the Cubs take on a quality pitcher with crazy upside. And you know what he cost the Cubs in 2026? $3.75 million. And according to Spot Track, with Cabrera's salary on the books at that number, they still have about $35 million to the first luxury tax. So you know what that means? It means the Cubs have room for another addition. And Jesse Rogers on MLB Network, before we hit record here, or the live button, said, and I'm paraphrasing here, this trade now leaves a bit of a hole in their lineup. And he did mention Bichette and Bregman as potential fits. He also said that they could go shorter term on a bat. Maybe one of these guys market crashes and it ends up being one of these guys. But they could go shorter term deal for one of these guys. But he did mention that there is a hole in their lineup now, and Ballesteros could fill it. But now you have the potential to sign Bregman or Bichette. He did mention that an addition would likely be more for the infield and not the outfield, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, $35 million away from the luxury tax. So Ty and I talked about it yesterday, but Kyle, what would you like to see them do with this money now? I wouldn't say newfound money, but
yeah, I mean, based on my conversation with Jacob the other day, I mean, this was kind of, I had given him a hypothetical. I said, do they go get a big guy and then some supporting characters around him? Or do they get more, like one or two supporting characters around him? Or do they get more of like a mid-level guy and get a bunch of supporting characters? And he kind of was like, it's more of that, which meant more like a Gallon type. But when you talk about a bat, I mean, because now there is a hole, which, by the way, like that was already a confusing thing, right? Like, how was Casey plus Ballesteros plus Seiya Suzuki going to work out this year? Now it's very clear. Seiya is your right fielder. Ballesteros is your DH, which I really am okay with. Seiya had better defense in right field when he did get the chances this last year, and I think I would rather have Ballesteros in the lineup than Casey if I had to pick one or the two. But yeah, I mean, I still, I don't want to be a naysayer, but I just don't see the Bichette thing happening.
Boo.
Yeah, but if Nico gets traded, which would just devastate me, then yeah, I mean, you better be getting Bichette because of that.
So that was floated out there by a couple people just in reports, and I can't even keep track of them because the hot stove went from ice cold to all of a sudden in the last 24 hours. It's been kind of nuts. But it was mentioned that they don't necessarily have to trade Hoerner, but he's an expiring contract. If they don't meet his terms, which according to David Kaplan on his show yesterday that came out, he's looking for like 5 for 90, 5 for 100, which actually quickly, Ty and I talked about this yesterday, but Kyle, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Are you giving Nico 5 for 90, 5 for 100?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. No questions, Your Honor.
Based on WAR alone, I mean, that guy has added more wins for the Cubs than you could say just about any player in the last few years.
I don't disagree. And I'm not saying he's not worth the money either. I felt like I got a little bit of that in our comment section on yesterday's show. I'm not saying he's not worth that. I'm just asking, I guess it's Bichette versus Hoerner, but I don't even, with the money they have now, I don't think you need to have that conversation. You can add Bichette to this lineup now, and it's not the only one that's going to hurt a little bit is probably Matt Shaw and Ballesteros. But I mean, the DH position's open. You can get those guys at bats. So Ty, I guess same question. What do you think they could, should, would do with this leftover money? Is that how we want to phrase it? Sure.
Well, actually, the better question is what inning are we in the offseason?
I hope it's like the 6th. Like, I hope we got some time yet.
This just fast forward us to the 7th, the bottom of the 7th.
Yeah, bottom of the 7th, and now we have a rain delay. Yeah, I mean, look, I said it last night. The Nico stuff would suck. I mean, that is a gut punch. Now, is Bo Bichette a better overall hitter when it comes to all of the things involved? I personally say yes. The problem is that the overall defense, base running, and then the hitter, that's where it's really tough because it's like, dang, like Nico adds so much more beyond the bat. The part that sucks, though, is that like every team needs a Nico. Every team needs a Nico. So it's almost like it's hard to compare him to Bregman or Bichette because it's like, well, we still need Nico. Like we still need that bat in the lineup. We don't have that bat in the lineup, guys. We really don't.
No.
Besides maybe, yeah, no. Look, the team is committed to $32 million in 2027. The team is committed to $32 million of contracts. You're telling me that you can't add another Bregman or Bichette if you really want to go that route with a lucrative deal and feel bad about it. Like, because that money beyond that. Now, that begs the question again, is that what do you do with Hoerner? And that's the part that I remember reading this morning with Sharma and Mooney's article from The Athletic when they were asking about, like, why would you ever trade Nico? You know, it's all this. He's an expiring contract, guys. Like, and he's at probably his peak of value, if we're being honest with you. So do you look to add stuff beyond this year because you don't have a whole lot in the lineup moving forward and trying to add players and resurface that depth inside the farm system and then add Bichette, and now Bichette's your long-term second baseman, and then you ultimately have all these other assets that you can use across the board?
So this is the interesting thing too. In the article that I shared with you both this morning, I screenshotted it and sent it to you both. After this year, they have, what is it, $37 million committed?
$32 million.
Even better
this year.
It's Dansby and Phil Maton, and then of course you have guys like PCA, Bush that are still, arbitration, all that stuff. But if you have the money now, you can make a swing and then set up Bo Bichette as we all hope PCA becomes like a Batman, right? Bichette could be Robin, and he's really good in that role. It makes a ton of sense to me. The Bregman stuff doesn't make as much sense to me, especially reportedly as, I thought that said Tommy Boy. I can't read. Tony, I think the $20 million for Nico. Yeah, I think that's about what it's going to end up at too. But you have the ability to go add someone, a stud, 28 years old, to add with this core. And again, you don't even have to trade Nico. And if he walks, guess what? Bichette can just walk into second base, or Shaw can fill second base.
I'm watching Kyle's face during this entire discussion. I just do not see this man accepting Nico leaving this team. I don't see it, brother. I see you like cringing. I could see the mustache just going everything.
Well,
you seem not happy with this.
You can add Bichette to the mix.
What's the right business
here?
decision
Okay,
here,
do
Kyle,
you want?
opinion?
Here's a news flash though. Okay, when you put Nico and Bichette next to each other, okay, and I'm looking at Fangraphs. They both came into the league in 2019. Okay, they both play infield, right? They both have exactly 20.0 WAR since they came into the league. Nico has a 107 WRC plus, where Bichette has a 121. They both are phenomenal players, and one just does it with the glove and the other does it with the bat a little bit more. And I just think that this team the way that's been built, cannot give up more outs than it can deserve. And I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of I know it's sexier to have a really good lineup. I know it's sexier to have the guy that's like the really big threat to go deep. But how many times do we get a guy or see a guy that's like, wow, he put up great numbers, put up 22 home runs, put up 30 home runs, and only like 3 of them were of actual significance because the rest of them were when they were down big or up big, right? And that's where I just think that Nico fits the mold of what this team is a little bit more than Bichette. Would I say no to Bichette? Absolutely not. But I mean, we're basically replacing a guy that gives his team about 4 wins a year for another guy who gives his team about 4 wins a year. And one is probably going to come cheaper than the other. And I think we know which one that is.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this, Kyle. I think the biggest thing we talk about when this all started when Kyle Tucker came over in the deal, right? We've talked about it quite a few times now, is like this threat, like this ultimate threat that you have in the middle of the lineup that can truly impact a lineup across the board, right? You create tougher at bats. It gives better pitches to the guys ahead of him, behind him. Do you foresee that with a guy like Bichette in the lineup?
I don't. I mean, okay. I think he's a very good offensive player, but I don't think he's strike fear into the opposing pitcher like Tucker. I mean, home runs each of the last. I'm looking at full seasons here. In his last 5 full seasons, 29, 24, 2018. Right? Like it's good. But that 29 home run season was back in 2021. Since then, he hasn't hit more than 24 in a full season. That's Ian Happ basically from a power perspective.
I guess I'm not looking at Bichette. I mean, he just kind of hits 20 homers a year. That's just kind of his thing, which is fine. I'm looking more for the bat to ball skills that really is only Nico Hoerner. Is why I think he's such a terrific fit for this team. And I mean, batting average, he was hurt in 24, so he only hit 225, but otherwise 311, 306. I'm pretty sure he's got a batting title to his name too. Like, this dude just rakes. And it's just such a need for this Cubs team because, as you mentioned, how many times in clutch situations do they just need a hit? And the only one we could all rely on was Nico Hoerner. Bo Bichette, with the bat at least, is better than Nico Hoerner. And Nico Hoerner is pretty damn good. So,
and are you saying Bichette and Nico, or are you saying one or the other is on the team? If you can get both, hell yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But how are you going to do that though, guys?
Matt Shaw's gone at that point.
Bichette's never played third base in his career. I mean,
we'll figure it out.
Okay. I'm not saying he can't. I mean, he's a big league baseball player. I mean, Matt Shaw moved around the infield, no problem. He was unbelievable. I just think I'm just trying to find like a threat. Like, what is the actual threat to add to this lineup? Is it Bregman? Is it Bichette? If I'm talking, you add this guy to the lineup and it completely transforms the lineup, and you do not have to move Nico.
I don't see why not. The money's there. And
so you're moving Shaw then. So Shaw's getting moved, or you're moving to the bench?
Shaw goes to the bench, super utility role. And here's the other thing, which is a weird thing that's going to come out of my mouth. The nice thing, too, Bichette hasn't played a full season since 2022. There will be at-bats available for Shaw, Ballesteros, or whoever else, bench guys, Tyler Austin. There will be spots for those guys to go get it. It's just, he's a 2-time All-Star. He's been tremendous his entire career with the bat. He's got the crazy bat-to-ball skills. It just fits. Now, again, as the comments are pointing out, as you guys point out, defense, yeah, it's pretty suspect, and that's being generous. It's not great. But, man, oh, man, at this point, you're so good defensively everywhere else. I would take the shot. You need the offense. Because pitching now, assuming everyone, and you can't assume this, everyone stays relatively healthy. Boyd, I'm guessing, is going to come back to earth a little bit. Cade, we have no idea. Wiggins, we have no idea. Tyone's going to be Tyone. Shota, who the hell knows what that's going to look like? But your defense everywhere else is so good. You can afford one quote unquote weak spot. I don't see how it's a lose for them. Outside of money, that's going to be the thing.
I love this question from Kevin here. Out of Bichette, Tucker, Bregman, Belly, who would you guys let's say not rank them, but like who would you guys want in the lineup if you had to sign one of these guys today?
Tucker's number one for me.
Okay.
I kind of want off the Kyle Tucker ride, and there's been some not so nice things that have been reported-ish about his motor and love of the game. So that drops him down a little bit for me. I just made this passionate argument for Bichette. It would be weird if I had him any lower than 1. So I would say Bichette. I think Belly and Tucker are cleaner fits. So I would say Bichette, Belly, Bregman, Tucker for me.
Wow.
Right?
He's that far down.
I really didn't enjoy the experience. I think the relationship there is fractured after he went to Tampa after he got hurt again. I just don't think the Cubs have any interest in, quite frankly. Thanks for the 3 months that you gave us that were awesome. Outside of that, I really didn't enjoy the experience.
Yeah, the Tucker thing's hard too because there just has been really no tie this offseason to the Cubs. It's pretty much been Bichette, Bregman, Belly. So I'm going to leave Tucker out of it, even though I'd love to have Tucker back. I would say Tucker would be my number 1 if it was legitimate and wanted to be back. But out of the 3, Bichette, Bregman, and Belly, I think I am going to go with Bichette. I think I want Bichette. And I think that if we could all talk to Craig Counsell tomorrow and let him know that Bichette can play third base. We've seen it with our own 2 eyes, which we haven't. But he can play third base, and then Shaw moves to the bench. If that's the way you guys want to do things, and we want to do that this way, I'm fine with it. We got to add something to this lineup. Like that's what this is missing. Like you talk about a perfect off season at this point. It's add one more depth piece in the starting rotation and add an actual threat to that lineup. Because beyond this year, you're losing a lot of guys, and this is the time to add some guys that you know can be future assets to the team.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. You might not have to use Bichette at third base. The DH spot is kind of open. Who's to say Matt Shaw?
Yeah, this one, Randy put, you play Bichette at third versus righties and DH versus lefties. There's some. Now, does Bichette want to do that? That's the question.
Right. And the other part of this, too, is he might only be playing third base, hypothetically, for a year because we don't know what the Nico Hoerner thing is going to end up. And this front office, we saw it in 21. They don't care about fan sentiment. If they don't think you're going to get the job done or they have value, they will ship you off no matter what. We've seen it time and time again. So Nico might not be here past this year. So now, just naturally, Shaw can stay at third or move to second, or Bichette potentially could go to second or third, whatever. Like, there are ways to do this. I just think the fit is clean. The bat is, one of the best in baseball, in my opinion. And to be transparent with the audience, he's one of my favorite non-Cubs. So I'm biased here. I would absolutely adore and would have his jersey hanging behind me if they signed him. But it's just, I just think the fit is so clean for what they need. And they've had interest before. Last offseason, we heard rumblings that they might trade for Bichette. It makes too much sense to me.
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to push back on for you, Alex, as you said, if you get a guy like Bichette, because of how good the defense is, you're okay to have one spot. And I don't agree with that because I think that if you have a strength and you built a team around the fact that you're supposed to be attracting pitchers because you have the best defense in the world. You're supposed to be attracting pitchers because you have great pitching development. And then you say, we don't care about third base, or we don't care about this position. I mean, we saw how that worked out with Christopher Morel. We saw how that worked out with a few different spots. And how many times do we talk about bat being the reason that a game didn't get won versus a defensive miscue being the reason that we didn't win a game? I would say 70% of the time it's a defensive miscue. And for that reason, if you can get Bichette and he's DHing a majority of the time, or hey, Nico's down or Shaw's down, and then he's having to play some defense. Yeah, that absolutely. That feels like a Dodgers move. It doesn't feel like a Cubs move. But if they are able to do that, absolutely. If you're telling me, though, that we're going to get rid of a finalist Gold Glover at third base or second base and replace it with a guy who hasn't had a full healthy season, in your words, since 2022, and hope that the bat makes up for that, I don't know that fits the mold of this team for what Jet is trying to build.
And I guess I keep repeating myself. I sound like a broken record, but I just think that he doesn't necessarily have to play the field with the DH spot.
Yeah, again, if we can add him, yes. But if we have to replace, I think we're on the same page there. If we have to replace one of those, I think it's a very dicey move.
And that, yes. So that we're saying the same thing there. Because, yeah, it does, for me, I would hate to trade Hoerner with how valuable he is. And let's be honest, they need more Nico Hoerners, which is why I'm pushing for Bichette. They need more guys like that, not less. And, yeah, I just think they can make it work with everybody as is now. Bichette can DH. Shaw can spell guys here and there. Like, there are ways to make this work defensively where I don't know it would be that big of a problem. Defensive replacements, whatever. But it's hard for me to argue because how many games were we on the live show post-game talking about, Gage Workman kicked a ball to San Francisco and they lost. Like, who can forget the Gage Workman era? I mean, wow, what a time in our lives. But it just makes way too much sense for me. And I see the comment there about Eugenio Suarez. I haven't heard anything about him. I heard Pittsburgh was kind of kicking the tires on him, but it's just I don't see that as a fit. Not done trading. I don't know. I think this was the Cubs' big trade. I mean, they still have chips if they wanted to, but it kind of feels like this was their one big trade.
This is pretty cool, though, guys. I mean, with the going back to the Cabrera thing, just really quick, like I was just looking at, because I kind of wrote out what the 2027 roster is going to look like. I know we're talking about 2026, but things beyond what we're looking at, right? And obviously the low committed money that we have. But now that rotation, man, is Edward Cabrera, Cade Horton, Jackson Wiggins. Like that's really cool. Like that's really cool to talk about. I mean, you still got Matthew Boyd and Colin Ray as sort of those, they have options. And then like God knows what's going to happen with Ben Brown or Jordan Wicks or some of these other names. But like, this is going back to what we are really excited about is that we get this guy. It's fun. This kid is electric, dude. But we'll see. Well,
and you just mentioned the young three-headed monster that they'll have in 27. That's not even mentioning Steele. I think that's his last.
Thank you. Sorry. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry to do that to our Lord and Savior. I'm sorry. I should have added Jay Steele to that. My bad. I am so. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
But I mean, that's your top four. Like, holy smokes! If Wiggins pans out, when's the last time the Cubs had a young, fun rotation?
Mark Pryor. Kerry Wood.
That was 20 plus years ago.
Zambrano.
I mean,
Carlos.
Good Lord. There are kids that are like 20 years old that don't know who you're talking about.
No, they have no idea. They have no idea.
You know what the Cubs would have in common with that rotation as well? 3 homegrown.
Which, how often can you say that?
Yeah.
Or when's the last time you could say that? Probably that same team.
Yeah.
Wood, Pryor, Zambrano. But so before we wrap up here, any final words from either of you on this trade and the excitement? Are you feeling excited? Like, any final words as we wrap up the live here?
I think there's more work to be done.
That's really well said. There is still a lot to happen here, but credit to Jed for getting this done before CubsCon. That was pretty critical. It was getting a little close there.
I have my pitchfork sharpened. I was ready to go.
I was waiting that. I mean, if they just like had Edward Cabrera walk on stage, people would be like, "Oh, that's Cabrera." I think the last thing too that's pretty exciting about Cabrera, like, I mean, I know Boyd is not necessarily a strikeout pitcher, but like just for reference, like 40 less innings, and he had really the same amount of strikeouts. So it tells you what is in this kid's stuff is that you're looking at that strikeout arm that we did not have last year in the playoffs that we were missing with Cade and the cigar he smoked. Well, I hope Cade and Cabrera get to smoke a cigar together next year after they win the NL Central, and they're going into the playoffs, and Bichette hits the walk-off home run to send this team to the World Series. That's all I have. Thank you so much, and appreciate all you do.
So just a fun little thing. This literally was just posted. I just uploaded it from the Cubs Twitter account. If you needed any more confirmation that this was real, per the Cubs X account, they already got him in a jersey.
That's beautiful.
I mean, it's real. It kind of doesn't feel real. I feel like we've been talking about this guy for months on end now. But, I mean, the Cubs were interested. They finally got their guy, which how often have we been able to say that in the Jed Hoyer-led era? Not very often. So, pretty cool stuff. That's going to do it for us. Thank you to all. We got up to like 1:30 here. Thank you to all 130 of you that joined. Just a personal note, I saw in the comments after I shared yesterday that our family had lost our family dog. I saw a lot of comments saying, reaching out and, sorry for your loss. So I just want a quick thank Setup Nation. That was super cool. I tried to respond to all of you. If I missed one, I apologize, but I do really appreciate it. So thank you, Setup Nation. On your way out the door, please do us a favor, like, subscribe, keep commenting on this video. What are your thoughts? Everyone's fired up for Edward Cabrera, or as the Marlins fans call him, Cabby. So we'll have to do something with that. But Cabby is now a Chicago Cub. Like, subscribe, comment, audio only. You missed out on the live, but that's okay. It's fine. It'll still be up there for you to listen to, well, shortly, actually, because I don't have to do as much work. But it'll be available audio only. Do us a favor, like, subscribe on there, and leave us a 5-star review. But for Kyle, for Ty, I have been Alex, and that's it for our emergency Edward Cabrera episode. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you next time, and until then.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.